All right.
Rolling on, moving on. Here we go. Have you come across anything this week in videos or reading that kind of was like you remembered, worth remembering?
So I'll just go ahead and admit and confess I am terribly behind in our reading plan.
How many days?
Don't ask.
No, how many days? I bet it's not more than me.
Oh, let me make y'all feel better.
Is yours double digits?
Yeah.
So what I did.
Is yours over 20?
Yeah.
Okay, you're bad. You're worse than I am.
I'm in the
I don't even
single
wanna
digits
say, man.
now, but it was only because I had to preach.
So you just crammed.
Yeah.
No,
So
man.
now I'm getting behind again because some of the Psalms are kind of, unless you go look up what David's talking about, because they're all kind of put together. And so the Psalms sometimes, like some of them are good. I read 2 today that were like, I highlighted a bunch of stuff, but some of them are like, if you don't know what he's talking about or what situation he's in, it's kind of like, well, it's hard to get a lot out of it.
Right.
Well, some of it's fairly repetitive as well.
Yeah, a lot of, but, and from where they're short, I don't remember them.
Yeah.
Because if you read 10 a day, you're like, I don't even know what I just read. And so that's the thing I don't like about the Bible reading plan. I like that,
It'd be better if you did 2 or 3 max at a time, but yeah, that's like 9 of them.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a lot.
I try not, well, that's the thing. That's the reason I never did the Bible plan, because it became like, I'm just doing it. It's more like a exercise than actually spending time with God, because I'm reading so much.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you break it up and do some in the morning and some at night, it's still, I'm reading too much to actually get anything out of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's honestly why I decided, like, there's no catching up for me. I just need to jump to where we're at.
That's what I ended up doing. I jumped to where we were and then would do like
Just fill in
one.
Some context, a little before and a little after.
Well, yeah, you read one, do the current day, and then
jump back.
And then jump back. So eventually you'll catch, after a month, you'll catch back up.
Yep.
If you go behind, it just gets compounded the more you go behind.
It's going to take longer.
Maybe this is the topic. Don't feel bad. I bet we're not the only ones.
No, for real though. So I'll tell you kind of what, it was really cool because reading this passage for Coastline this week, we were in John 8. And let me grab my Bible and read it for you real quick. What is that noise?
My feet.
Oh,
That's loud.
it is.
That's how they do them sound effects in movies. Jordan be the sound effect guy.
Foley artist.
Like there'll be a thunderstorm and there'll be a person over there with a bucket of rocks.
Oh, man. Okay, so we were on verses 30.
Ka-chow!
Lightning.
40.
There's a movie that does that.
Lightning McQueen, man. It's
No, not but like that
Cars.
has the.
Ka-chow.
It's like a pun, like a kind of like that does the sound effects really poorly.
Oh,
And it's kind of a cheesy movie.
Did y'all ever see that movie that I sent to
are
y'all?
you talking about
that we need to
Monty
sit down and
Python and the
watch?
Holy Grail?
It's kind of like that, and the sound effects are like
You're not riding horses. You got 2 halves of coconuts and you're banging them together.
yeah.
There's a movie that I sent y'all that we need to sit down and watch. And just, I don't know, review it. Something different. It's called Velocipastor.
Oh my god, I saw that on Amazon or something.
Yeah,
Velocipastor.
So he's a pastor who turns into a dinosaur. But whenever it starts out, I watch.
Like, is this like a...
Does he turn into a raptor?
Is this a
Yeah.
documentary or like a really cheesy sci-fi?
Oh, it's a really cheesy sci-fi.
Yes!
So here's the thing.
So
though.
he really turns into a dinosaur.
He really turns into
Yes.
a dinosaur.
I will watch it
So
gladly.
I want to say it's a Japanese movie that's dubbed
Of course
in
it is.
English, but they forgot to add in video. They forgot to add in video effects. So I watched a TikTok review of it, and one of the very first scenes is a car blows up, or is supposed to blow up,
But it doesn't
and it's
actually
in
blow up.
brackets over it, explosion VFX. The car doesn't explode. It just shows the car.
And the people like jump out of the way and act like it explodes and
Yeah.
everything. Is there
Yeah.
noise that it explodes?
No.
So there's no video or audio special effects. It's just like a cue almost for the
Just a
actor.
cue. Yeah.
That makes it even worse.
So we need to watch that. Maybe that's
Velocipastor.
Tuesday night.
I'm down. All right, let's get back to
Okay.
Psalms.
But so I will go ahead and tell you how many days I'm behind.
Let me guess, 34.
No.
More? It can't be more than... Dude,
It's
57.
It's it's making it worse that you're guessing and you're still not.
Oh my gosh, it's more than 57?
More than 57.
Oh man. All right, you don't have to say. What are you watching? Velocipastor?
I'm trying to find a quote I heard yesterday.
Yeah, you'll never catch up.
92.
Oh my gosh.
That's less than halfway, ain't it? Because we're on day like 170 something.
You haven't even done half, Kyle.
What I was going to say though is, don't feel bad. Chrissy's quit. she reads at night, but she's not doing the Bible plan.
So, well, and this passage made me feel better about it too. Okay, so I'll read it. It is, it's right after Jesus had the conversation with the Pharisees about the woman caught in adultery. So that's kind of where we're at in the story.
Okay.
And he keeps talking to people.
Is that a real
in the
Bible?
temple. Yeah. Why? Does it not look like one?
I'm just making sure it's not like, the Oprah Winfrey Bible or something.
No. I did actually get. I found.
I just don't see
Somewhere
two.
on
I don't
Facebook?
see two columns on the page.
Oh no,
That's why I got thrown off.
single column
Okay,
journaling Bible.
go ahead.
I did get this.
If that was offensive to any
Bible.
Oprah Winfrey fans, I don't apologize.
Are we recording?
We're recording.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah. Oh, we've been recording for 10.5 minutes.
Well,
Yeah. But I found this Bible on Facebook that they were giving out for free, and I just wanted to see. It's called the Recovery
Is
Version.
that the free one?
No.
Oh,
This is an ESV.
oh okay.
ESV single column journaling Bible.
Oh, sweet.
I
All right,
kind of
go
like
ahead.
it. It's my 5th in line Bible. Okay. Verse 30 through 47. Okay. As he was saying these things, many believed in him. So Jesus said to the Jews who had believed, "If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." They answered him, "We are offspring of Abraham and have never been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free?" Jesus answered them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who practices sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not remain in the house forever, the son remains forever. So if the son sets you free, you will be free indeed. I know that you are offspring of Abraham, yet you seek to kill me because my word finds no place in you. I speak what I have seen with my father, and you do what you have heard from your father." They answered him, "Abraham is our father." Jesus said to them, "If you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works of Abraham did. But now you seek to kill me, a man who has told you the truth that I heard from God. This is not what Abraham did. You are doing the works your father did." And they said to him, "We were not born of sexual immorality. We have one Father, even God." Jesus said to them, "If God were your father, you would love me, for I came from God, and I am here. I came not of my own accord, but he sent me. Why do you not understand what I say? It is because you cannot bear to hear my word. You have your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me. Which one of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? Whoever is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is that you are not of God. Okay, so basically talking about what we're filled with, right? Because it starts out talking about abiding in him, kind of reminiscent of John 15, by
The vine and the branches.
yeah, thank you.
Abide in me and I in you, and you'll bear
It's,
much fruit.
well, like
Yeah,
15 something,
yeah,
4.
something
maybe.
like that.
It's
but-
all of 15, I think.
Something like
Almost.
that.
But
Whatever.
the whole, remain in me and I'll remain in you.
Yeah, but he says in there twice too, talking about it. It says that there is basically if the word is going to be found in you or not, and so that was kind of my reassurance that it's not great to be 92 days behind. But
you.
yeah. But there's also no benefit if I'm just reading it for the sake of reading it either.
Well, I think that's what we were getting to, is just, if it's just a check in the box to say, I got all my chapters read today, then did it really do anything?
Right.
And one of the things I love about preaching is you get to spend a whole week on one text.
Right.
And I remember so much more and get so much more out of it. So I like taking, Bobby's outline and just studying that for a couple of days instead of trying to read 20 chapters in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that's where I'm at. That's what I'm having to do to get caught back up.
Well,
It ain't
I
gonna
think
happen.
the problem with making rules or guidelines is you feel like you have to follow them, and that if everybody else is doing it and you're not doing it, then there's something wrong with you,
Right.
or that you're not being as obedient. And only you and God know that in your heart. And just because it don't look like everybody else doesn't mean it's necessarily wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
So why even do? I think we may have talked about this before, but why even do the Bible plan?
Well, you're never going to, you can read that, you can ask anybody that's older that has read it all their life. And, I've had plenty of people tell me, like, you'll never know all of it. You'll never understand all of it. And, so that kind of reassures me. And, like, this isn't like this one year, because I read the Bible in a year, I'm going to graduate to something more or be higher, so to speak. But that, it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's your whole life. It's not just a curriculum.
Right. Right.
And that made me think of something else. Like, there's almost this stigma of, there's almost more shame and guilt in church, unspoken, because of things like that. Like, it's not fun to admit, you, especially having the title of a pastor, that, well, I'm struggling reading every day, or I'm struggling hearing God. And you don't want to say that because of how people will judge you or perceive you. And then especially in church, because everybody's supposed to be doing it, so to speak. And,
Right.
but I don't think, like, where does that come from? Or I don't think that's even what the church is supposed to be.
Right. I mean, that's what Jesus is basically fighting whenever he talks with the Pharisees.
Yeah, because they were all about, they had the scrolls wrapped around their arms and the
Right.
phylactery boxes, and, you know, whose box is bigger? They must be smarter because they got more stuff. And, you know,
I keep all my stuff in a fanny pack.
yeah. So today, it was, you know, whose fanny pack's bigger with more scrolls?
Have y'all seen the fanny pack that looks like a belly?
Yes, I have.
That thing's amazing. Like the first time I saw a video of that, I literally thought the dude's hairy belly was hanging out, and then he like opened it up and took something out of it, and it was amazing.
It was funny.
But yeah, no, I've been convicted of that kind of thing before in different ways, but like one, like my mom has a friend that she's, I don't know, she's a rad lady, and like she was a substitute teacher when I was in school. So when I was a kid, I remember her subbing for class, and her husband, I think 2 times, was diagnosed with cancer, and they went to some revival thing, and he got cured of it and like went into remission and everything. Like through, it was like a thing, and she explained it like they did not like a ceremony or whatever, but they did this thing where they proclaimed healing over the crowd or whatever, you know, and it was this thing that I don't know. But anyways, like it was crazy. She told the testimony of her husband in school, which, you know, nowadays he probably will be asked not to come back if he did that. But she would do that, and then she would share the gospel like with the kids every time she would substitute. So every single day that she substituted, she would bring a picture of her husband, show it to the whole class, say that testimony of him being healed, and then tell the whole class about Jesus. And but aside from that, like she, you know, my mom would tell me that that this lady would pray like 2+ hours a day. You know, and you know, that's crazy, and it's awesome, you know, but then it's like, for me, it's like, man, I have a hard time praying for like 5 minutes straight.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I get distracted and I start thinking about other things, and I might get a text message, or I'll start thinking about what I want to do after I'm trying to pray, or, you know, whatever. Or I just get so distracted. I don't, you know, I might pray in the morning and at night, and that's it. And, you know, I won't take a moment to be still and just pray, you know, like pray without ceasing to me means that you stay in communion with God all day. And I feel like I do, pursue that as far as, you know, involving God in my decision-making throughout the day. But as far as like just being quiet and, you know, going to a room by yourself, or, you know, whatever, like the stereotypical, like what you would picture in your head of praying,
right?
Like the war room. Say that 10 times fast.
War room.
You know, like I was just like, man, I feel so inadequate. And, you know, same thing with people that, you know, talk about their quiet time, you know, what they read and study. And I mean, Gary, you know, anytime you go over to that dude's house, he's got like 5 Bibles opened up, and he's got his like Hebrew Bible and like all this kind of stuff, and he's highlighting, and he's you know, studying each of the Hebrew words and like all this kind of stuff. I'm like, man, like
you feel, you know, my gut is like, I guess I need to be doing more. And
right,
yeah.
But it can be that way with anything, you know. It doesn't have to be just with that. You know, you run across a very successful person that, you know, has a boat and like all this kind of stuff, and you're like, dang, like I could be doing more. You know, I'm inadequate.
Yeah.
You know, but
and that's not, you know, the other side of this whole thing. Like, I definitely don't want to convince people they don't need to read their Bible or that it's not important. But
yeah, absolutely.
You know, the cool thing about reading through the Bible from beginning to end is you get, if you read it, you know, with the lens of like, where is Jesus in this, especially Old Testament?
Yeah.
It's this constant, you know, back and forth of people sinning and falling, and God redeems them and brings them back, and then they start to think, you know, they're doing good, and then they fall again, and there's like, it's this constant reminder that we're not good, and we need a Savior, and only Jesus could come to do that and fulfill that. And when you read it like that, it's cool to see, like, especially think about the history and the timeline and how many years this has been going on. And just because there's different things in the world now, it's still the same.
Right.
Like, we're still the same people.
Right. And you even get a glimpse into why Jesus says the things that he says too. I mean, because so we always go back to the 2 commands that Jesus gave, and that was to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is as the first, love your neighbor as yourself. The thing is that came from Deuteronomy. Like it's almost verbatim from Deuteronomy.
But if you don't know that and you read it, it's almost like, I think that's why people have a harder time understanding how Jesus is God and the whole Trinity, and like, you almost think like Jesus is saying something new, but he's really not.
Right. Yeah, he was saying the same stuff that Moses was saying.
Well, God always, even in the Old Testament, where it seems like God was a lot more hardcore than, like, he still forgave his people when they repented.
Yeah.
That's what I've enjoyed reading is without actually reading it, you can get this misconception that the God of the Old Testament is different than the God of the New Testament and Jesus and everything. However, God was always faithful to forgive when his people repented and turned towards him, but there were generations that existed that never considered God at all. And, it's the same way now where people have the misconception that, oh, well, Jesus died for my sins, so, I'm good. I can just keep whatever I'm doing. That's not the gospel at all.
Right.
The gospel is still exists the same that it did in the Old Testament, is we have to have repentant hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And that you don't have salvation except when it's paired with repentance. So I don't know, man. I've enjoyed it, reading through it all, because I get a bigger picture of all the little tiny stories that I would maybe read a chapter here or there, or not even read. Like, there's a ton of books that I've never read Chronicles or Kings or anything like that. I've read a little bit of maybe Judges when you read about Samson and
right,
that kind of thing. But I think it's cool to read through it and see the testimony of all the different people that chose to dedicate their lives and their kingship to God versus the ones that didn't, and how God responded to it. And I don't know, but yeah, I don't think we're definitely not encouraging people to
skip it.
Well, I
not read your Bible. It's like a different thing. I think reading through the Bible with the Bible plan is important because you get the bigger picture. But however, some people can read it and remember everything. I myself can't. So it's important to pair that with some time to where you do kind of at least take apart one section of it.
Right.
And,
Well, so kind of the main point that I came to with Coastline is, that it's not about how much you read. It's not about how much you know, even. It's if you know Jesus, but also too, like, are you saturated in the Word? You see that meme, especially now that it's summertime. It says that if a mosquito bites me, I want him to fly away singing "There's power in the blood." Okay, that's really cheesy, but really the thing that I walked away with Coastline this week was, you need to be a sponge. Do y'all know of any purposes for a dry sponge?
a dry sponge?
A dry sponge.
A dry sponge picks up more water than a wet one.
Exactly. So it needs to be saturated. Like, that is the only purpose for a dry sponge.
What?
Right?
Somebody's going
to come up with something. But
a dry sponge. A dry sponge is only functional if it soaks something up.
Right. So, that's kind of our purpose, right? Is to be saturated in the Word.
Yeah.
Like, that's when we fulfill our purpose.
Yeah. We'll get saturated with something.
Right.
So be careful what you get saturated with.
Right. because if you
Might
drop
turn
a
into a
sponge into it,
Velocipastor.
right? Because no doubt about it, if you drop a sponge into the sink full of water, it'll soak up water. But if you drop it into a septic tank, it's going to pick up more than water.
I don't know, man. Sometimes my sink has some pretty cruddy stuff in it. Maybe not quite like a septic. Yeah.
So that was just kind of my whole thought about it. And also too, not just trying to make myself feel better about it, because 92 days is a lot. but I know I'm not alone. So if you're less than 92 days behind
Or more.
or more, I mean, if you're more than 92 days, come on. I'm just kidding.
You think you set a pretty high bar?
Yeah.
The bar has been set fairly low.
Well, that just it's not. If you think about it, if your goal is to say, I read the Bible in a year, then who does that point to?
Right.
It just points to you and makes you look like, well, look what I did, and that's not even the point.
Right.
So even no matter how many days you're behind, it doesn't mean, that's not the point of doing it to be necessarily on track. But the whole point of doing it goes back to what Jordan said, of just getting the bigger picture of the whole gospel story,
Right.
from the beginning of time to the end. And it doesn't matter how you do it, but people made Bible plans just to help you,
Right.
to assist you, to give you, some guardrails.
Right. And it is allowed that you can take longer than 365 days to read it.
Right. So just because you're not going to finish it on December 31st doesn't mean anything, so that doesn't mean no matter how many days you're behind, or, the whole point is, Robbie Gallaty is a pastor I listen to from time to time, and he says, today, every time he's preaching, he says, today we're going to be in whatever scripture, and when you turn there, say word. When you got it, say word.
Word?
And he said, we're going to get into the word until the word gets into us.
Mm.
And that's the whole point of it, to be saturated.
Right. So don't be a dry sponge.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to, sometimes, as I always think about, so I met this one guy when I was living in Panama. He was an adult, and he never learned how to read. It's fairly uncommon these days in where we live or whatever. But I mean, in areas that education is just not available, like a lot of third world countries, you have a lot of adults that can't read, and this dude straight up couldn't read. But his passion for the Lord was so big. Like he played music. Like he learned how to play the accordion.
What?
He played the accordion. Dude shredded on the accordion. And he was part of the worship team for the church that they went to. But he played the accordion, dude. He learned how to play that thing, and
That's sick.
dude, the accordion's one of my favorite instruments.
It's a really cool
yeah.
instrument.
If somebody here could learn how to play the accordion, I'm just saying, like, if anybody knows how to play the accordion and feels so led to,
Please come speak.
join the worship team of the gathering. I don't know. I'll give you like ice cream once a week or something. That's the most I can commit to right now. But I don't know. There'll be an incentive. It'll be to your benefit, but it'll be awesome. Anyway, but so this dude had a passion for the Lord, right? And it really like got me thinking, like, not to excuse, not spending time in the Word and reading and studying for yourself, but it got me thinking, like, man, this guy, has this way about him that he really loves God, and I know that he knows him. And, how much more important is it to seek God in everything that you do versus just reading the Bible, just like what we're talking about, just as a checklist,
Right.
like a checklist. Obviously this guy learns, from listening to other people and having communion with other people and with God. You know, I mean, we can get stuff straight from Him.
Right.
You know, there's crazy stories of God coming to people in dreams, and you know, God can do anything. You know, even somebody that doesn't know. I've met another guy that didn't know how to read as an adult, and God miraculously gave him part of his testimony is God miraculously gave him the ability to read as an adult. Like, he didn't have to learn or anything. One day he just knew how to read.
Wow.
You know, so God can do anything, but I think what have we said before? It's not so much the process, but the purpose, or something like that.
Have never heard
something
that,
like that?
but that's good. That's worth writing down.
I feel like we've said that here before. I don't even know if
that's
makes
whiteboard
sense.
material.
Not so much process, but the purpose.
Have y'all said that while I was gone or something?
I don't know. I feel like some of that's John's. That sounds like something John would say.
It does.
But I don't know. Just that I think that goes along lines of what we're talking about. It got me thinking about who I'm actually seeking. Like, when you read the Bible, I think it's easy just to read it as a book and not to read it with the purpose of seeking God in it and learning more about God and growing closer to God. But it's just this thing that you just do because you feel convicted of it, and you're like, well, it's something I got to do, so I'm going to do it.
Right.
So I don't know.
I would say, you know, if your heart's jacked up and not in it, then the first place to start would be to tell God that. And, you know, there's plenty of times I have to ask God, like, you know, I don't want to for some reason, and I need you to change my heart. And, you know, me starting there, God will do something. I'll have an experience, and then it'll change my outlook on why I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And it's funny, like, every time, if you think about the disciples, like, even the first disciples Jesus called, like, those guys were fishermen, and none of them were good enough to get into rabbi school. And so they wanted, you know, I don't even know if they went to the temple or the church because they felt like they weren't good enough.
Right.
Maybe.
And God used them in such a way that we're still talking about it today.
Yeah.
So it's not, goes back to what y'all said. It's not necessarily how much you know, it's who you know.
Right.
Because even Jesus in Revelation says, you know, when the final day of judgment comes and you meet me, I'm going to say, if, you know, depart from me because I never knew you. And so it's about the relationship, not, as Jordan said, the process.
Right. I mean, and that too means that you need to be mindful whenever you are reading. Make sure it is a conscientious thought that you're growing your relationship with Jesus.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just knowledge too.
And, you know, we're so spoiled today, like, you know, I'm sure y'all have heard it said, you know, the Bible is the best way to get to know God.
Yeah.
And it's not a book. It's like a library of journals and poems and songs and stories that were compiled together as a way for God to reveal himself to you.
Right.
So it's not just a book. So
Right.
if you look at it as a book, it's going to be harder to get that out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, y'all are making me feel much better about being terribly behind. So, thank you.
Well, I would, you know, you're still reading, right? You still read something.
Oh, yeah.
So
I study for Coastline each week. That usually takes most of my time.
I know me, you know, I like pressure. If I don't have pressure, I'm, you know, if you tell me, Nick, you got all day to write this statement, then I probably won't get it done. But if you say,
I'll do it in the last.
Nick, I need
minutes. 5
of them by 12 o'clock, I'm going to knock that thing out,
Yep. Yeah. Now that's probably how it's going to work. We're going to get up to November, December. I'm just going to read it all. No, I honestly, it actually has been pretty cool. I've made it a thing where if I'm feeding Miles in the morning, like in the middle of the night, really, me and him will stay up and listen to 3 days worth.
Yeah, just hit that thing on play, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've had to do it. 'Cause I'm so ADHD or whatever that if I read without listening to it, going with it, I'm too easily distracted, and I can read 2 verses and then realize, and it's even hard.
Out.
It's even hard just listening to it and reading it.
Right.
My ADD is like next level, but
I space out so easy.
yeah, I start thinking about
finish a page and be like, "What did I just read?" Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, you talk about being saturated in a sponge, just like a cucumber doesn't become a pickle overnight. You got to sit in that thing for a while.
That's true. Not a good pickle, anyway.
It ain't like you can just
How long does it take to make a
get
pickle?
it in a day.
You want to know?
Yeah.
I think at least you can make refrigerator pickles in like 2 weeks.
What about pickled eggs, like hard-boiled eggs? Can you do those in a night?
I doubt
I
it.
think so.
Wonder how long it takes to pickle pig's feet.
Let's see, the longer it sits in the juice, the more flavor it has.
It's like chili.
Yeah.
Until it
Chili's
goes bad.
always better the second time.
Yeah,
So
second or third day. Pizza is too, in my opinion.
Pizza, spaghetti.
Like pizza heated up in the oven next day
Yeah.
is always better than the first.
All right, you ready? How long does it take for a pickle to become a pickle? You can ferment them in a crock pot, and fermenting genuine dill pickles takes 3 to 4 weeks at 70 degrees.
Wow. That's a lot longer than I thought. I was thinking like 3 days.
3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks.
So if they're heated up, they become more porous, I guess.
Bring it down quicker. But that's not what Mount Olive said, so I'm trying to find what Mount Olive says about it.
The king of pickles.
That's right.
Yeah, so I guess a challenge could be, even if you're not getting into reading your Bible every day, what are you saturating yourself with?
Right.
What kind of are you at least spending time with encouraging people and seeking godly friendships and counsel and all those kinds of things, or are you just saturated in the world? What kind of music are you saturating yourself with on a daily basis?
Right.
That has a big effect on me. The music that I listen to on a continual basis.
Yeah.
I've just made it a practice not to listen to anything else really other than worship for the most part, just because it'll kind of change my brain patterns and, what I default to.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're watching Yellowstone every night and listening to Morgan Wallen and Colter Wall, then, before you know it, I'm going to be a cowboy and drink every night.
Give me a whiskey, woman.
Oh, man. Yeah, if I listen to a lot of country, I find myself quoting country lyrics to people.
Yeah.
But if I listen to, 90.5, I'll end up
you kind of
that.
you kind of default to offering godly wisdom instead of
right.
Maybe just some humor or
right.
Whatever.
Yep. But alrighty. Well, that's today's admonition is to don't be a dry sponge.
Don't be a dry sponge. And if you're going to be a saturated sponge, which you should be careful what you're saturating in.
It could be the septic tank.
Could be the septic tank.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we didn't do an intro music, so we're going to do an outro music. Y'all ready?
Do it.
Do it.
Hey, do one of y'all want an outro?
No.
You want to try it?
No.
I'll give it a shot.
All right. It's all you, Nick. Here we go.
What do you normally say first?
You already blew it.
Well, it's been great, guys.
Oh, hey, guys. Yeah, it has been good. I hope you got something out of today. And if you want more information about anything The Gathering does, The Gathering, surfcity.com. And if you want to check out previous episodes or know anything more about the podcast, gatheringsurfcity.com/WTP. WTP stands for Walking Together Podcast. I enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And please, if you hear this, we would love for you to ask a question of any kind regarding the Bible or stuff you go through in life, any of it. But Walking Together Podcast. Later.
That was perfect, Nick. Well done.